Hello everyone, my name is John Bussart. I'm an HPE Solution Center engineer for Ingram Micro. I help support servers, blade systems, storage, as well as networking technology solutions from HPE. In my videos, what I like to do is show you a slide from a popular PowerPoint, and then explain to you what that means within a management interface. Today we're going to continue on our conversation with HPE's hyperconverged technologies. And we're going to talk about its predictable scalability by expanding your hyperconverged solution with OneView InstantOn. Now, InstantOn was the mechanism that we used to actually create our hyperconverged environment. It's also going to be the mechanism that we're going to use to be able to expand out the environment. And when I say expand, what I mean is buying another hyperconverged node, adding it to our cluster, so we increase our resources as far as the hypervisor, the compute, as well as the shared storage found within the software-defined mechanism. Now I'm going to do my expansion on a hyperconverged 380, or what's abbreviated as an HC380, but it's going to be a very similar process to what you'll see in a hyperconverged 250. The only difference is a secondary process in which this new node is added to the new user interface inside the HC380. So with that being said, let's explore this expansion capability. The first thing you're going to do is actually log into your management VM. And this is actually where you ran the OneView InstantOn to set up the cluster. This may be your vCenter incident as well, unless you use a remote vCenter incident, but it'll be your main management VM. All right, so we're logged in, so let's launch the OneView InstantOn process. Now you notice a lot of the items are already going to be filled as we kind of go through this. If you notice, all of the licensing agreements are still checked, and you'll see a lot, like I said, you'll see a lot of that same information. Now before I go through this setup, I want to kind of show you how my hyperconverged environment is configured today. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look inside vCenter. So this is my vCenter environment. Let's look at our hosts and clusters. And you'll see at this point, I have two hyperconverged nodes, or two ESX systems. And each one of these ESX systems is going to have a corresponding software-defined storage virtual machine, which are these down here. All right, so the idea is if I copy a block of data, a redundant copy gets copied to another storage node inside, or another storage VM inside the environment. All right, so when I expand this, I expect to see another ESX system as well as another incident of store virtual, which is our software-defined storage mechanism. Now some of the other virtual machines that are here, obviously this is the management machine here, which I'm logged into down here. And there's OneView, which is really the back end for this virtual machine, which is the new user interface. All right, so again, I should see another ESX server and another incident of store virtual within this environment. Another thing we want to look at is if we look at each one of these ESX servers, and I'll expand on the hardware here, you'll see that it actually has 4 data stores associated with it. And if I click on that, you'll see the data store. So I've got this data store 1, which is the local data store. And I've created a couple Ingram Micro 1 and 2 data stores that are shared to this, as well as the management data store. And that's where all these management virtual machines live, is on that data store. All right, and the same thing's true for this other system. So if I go and look inside data stores, you'll see I've got all the local data stores as well as these additional ones that we're talking about. And I'll expect if I expand it out that those data stores, those shared data stores, will be exposed to the new hyperconverged node as well. All right, so this machine, the new user experience, that would be this guy here. I have a video on this out there just so you're aware. And the software-defined storage, I want to take a look at that real quick. And this will only come up if you're looking at a 2-node based system, because what they've got to do is they've got to set up quorum witness in a little different way. So with 2 systems, you need kind of a tiebreaker if there is a split brain scenario, or the 2 storage nodes cannot communicate to each other. Who has a valid copy of data? Well, it's whoever. In this case, with 2 nodes, it's whoever can talk to this witness directory, this file shared directory, and this file. They're going to be the winner in that environment. When we get to 3 hyperconverged nodes, there'll be 3 incidents is of the storage systems, and they'll be able to break quorum by themselves, so they won't have to use an external file share. So that's an important thing to note, that when you have two hyperconverged nodes, you do need an external file share to kind of break quorum, but once we get beyond that, we don't need to worry about that. So let's minimize that. Let's minimize our vCenter incident, and let's start going through our InstantOn process. So we're going to click Next. We can see that it's remembered our vCenter license and our destination. We click Next again. We could see the two hyperconverged appliances that we currently have inside the environment, as well as this new additional one. Now I can add more than one at a time if I felt like it, so if I had 2 or 3 I could do that. Right, but I only have one more that I want to add today, so I'm going to click Next. Now it remembered a lot of the IP addressing schemes, but I still need to put in an address in here for this node itself. And it'll be continuous spaces of IP addressing again, so if I had 2 nodes, this would go from 103 all the way up to 104. And we're going to need the storage network as well. We're going to click Next. Next, we're going to need our store virtual credentials, and those are the credentials that we needed to actually log into our store virtual incident over here. So I'll log out of this guy right now. Again, we created those as a part of the InstantOn process, and we'll need to wait a little bit for those credentials to be validated. One of the things I'm going to let you know is to pay attention to time. I'm going to take out a little bit of empty space in here where we're not just staring and look at the screen. So if you want to get an accurate representation of how long this takes, I would actually go down here and look at the time down below. That'll give you a good idea of what is going on. All right, so we just got to wait for this authentication to happen. Okay, so it's completed its credentials. We're going to click Next, and then we're ready to deploy. Okay. And we can expand the details to see what actually OneView InstantOn is doing for us on the back end. All right, so I'm going to fade out, and I'll come back in after this is done in about 6 minutes or so. Okay, our InstantOn process has completed. Again, you can see that you get access to the licensing portal as well as other resources within this. Now I can click Finish at this point. Now in the case of an HC380, I'll be done. I just have to kind of go check out vCenter and things like that. But in the case of an HC380, I'm actually waiting for a secondary process. It's a short secondary process to be able to launch, to be able to add this to the new user interface, which again is this interface here. All right, so let's go and look inside our vCenter environment. All right, so I'm still only showing 2, so let's do a refresh here. And now we can see all the additional nodes are showing up, or our one additional node is showing up, as well as another incident of store virtual, which is our software-defined storage. So if I select here, because obviously there's an exclamation mark, we'll take a look at summary. We'll see that the ESXi shell as well as the SSH shell has been enabled, so we can suppress that based on your taste, or turn it off if you want it in the console. You can see that we're all set as far as that concerned. All 4 data stores have been exported to this system. All right, so it's automatically been added to this hyperconverged environment, our shared storage technology. Now, you don't normally need to do this, but we could look back in our hyperconverged environment, and we'll log back in. And you will see that we're no longer using that special quorum manager. That is because now we have 3 storage systems, and these storage systems can figure out quorum between each other. So that's also been changed within Store Virtual. Now, you don't need to necessarily look at any of these interfaces as far as the InstantOn process. Again, I'm just bringing them up to be able to show you what is going on in the background. Right, at this point, we are just waiting for our secondary process for our integration into the new user interface to come up. Okay, after a little bit of time, our secondary process to be able to integrate ourselves into the new user interface has popped up. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to put in the IP address of your new user interface. And then the username that you gave during the InstantOn process. And of course the password. And you click submit. And it took a little time for this to come up. It'll also take a few minutes for this to be able to connect into the environment, but we should get a little message prompt telling us that it is complete. All right, so our cluster expansion is complete. We'll click OK. And a final thing that you will want to do, it's an optional step, but if you go down to the new user interface, what you're going to want to do is go down to settings. You notice now there's one node that needs to be set up, so you just need to connect it into the ILO. So if you go down here, you'll see this additional system here. You'll put in its IP address. Of course, the username and password. And then click OK. And then submit. So that's all you need to do to be able to expand out your hyper-converged solution within your environment. I hope you found this video informative, and please stay tuned for more videos.